So I've already discussed how Aang's character arc disappointed me in the final showdown, um, but there's more to a climax than just the development of the main character. From what I've seen, stories climax usually consist of either a character's internal struggle, oppositional conflict resolution, and/or creative answering to plot devices. Um, in my opinion, Avatar doesn't really have an interesting culmination of plot that can be really upheld that changed the final battle. Um, the 11th hour lion turtle interferes with this culmination of plot. Greatest contender of plot probably has to be the activation of the Avatar State, but since it wasn't well foreshadowed and the it doesn't have much of it doesn't hold up enough for culmination of plot. The final thing climax could have hanged on was the opposition between Aang and Ozai as characters. Not in the sense of their physical conflict, because physical conflict is best supported by emotional conflict, but more of the forces behind Aang and Ozai. And the issue why this doesn't work is Ozai doesn't really mean anything to the audience. I really couldn't tell you very much about him, or even really how I feel about him, because we don't spend enough time with him. For comparison, let's look at Azula. We don't meet Azula until the second season, but immediately we spend a lot of time with her. Most notably are little things that aren't necessary for the plot, so to speak, but define her as a character and help you understand who she is and what's behind her. For instance, when Azula tells the captain to ignore the tide and listen to her instead, when she convinces Ty Lee to join her mission to catch Zuko in the Avatar, these little details gives us a picture of who she actually is. We learn that she is a manipulator, she is ambitious, and she will have things her way. In the third season, we learn much more about her as we see her interact with her friends and brother in a non-dangerous environment, particularly the beach episode. Fire Lord Ozai isn't properly introduced until the third season, and it's the first time we actually physically see him. But often the time that could have been spent on him, we instead spend on Azula. Ozai welcomes Zuko home, but the interaction is brief and doesn't really convey much about Ozai himself. Instead, we learn more about Azula's manipulative nature as Zuko learns that she told Ozai that he was the one to defeat the Avatar. And when Zuko is confronted about what he wants to do with himself, Azula is the one that he interacts with instead of Fire Lord Ozai. And also when Team Avatar breaks into the Fire Nation capital, Azula is the one that they deal with instead of the Fire Lord. And I mean, the beach episode alone is just a story on how messed up Azula is, and focuses entirely on the monster that she is. The greatest demonstration of Ozai's character is when Zuko confronts him in the Day of Black Sun, but once again this is briefed and is much more focused on Zuko than it is on Ozai. But there was many opportunities to demonstrate who Ozai was that the show didn't take. I would have been interested if he had visited Iroh in jail, or if he had... what kind of interaction was there as Iroh is deemed a traitor. Would he mock and belittle his brother, or would he see through Iroh's act, as Iroh pretends to be weak? Surely, at some point, Azula, Zuko, and him would have had dinner, and that would have been a great opportunity to get a little bit more about him. Also, what would his reactions have been at the events of Boiling Rock? Or even possibly after the Day of Black Sun, would he have met with the, I guess you would say, resistant leaders after they had been apprehended? But in the end, Ozai is really an empty shell of the plot, without meaning and without purpose. This paired with the other aspects of the final duel between Aang and Ozai, it makes this confrontation, what should be the climax of the show, play second fiddle to the final Agni Kai, and even in some regards the White Lotus's siege of Ba Sing Se. In many regards, the final Agni Kai has more of the elements of a climax than Aang and Ozai's duel. Azula and Zuko are both developed and narratively opposed, and there is a repetition of plot devices that are used in the final Agni Kai. The redirection of lightning, and also the fact that when you first met Azula, she and Zuko fought, and Zuko was horribly defeated. The final Agni Kai really is the climax that the show deserved. And that might partly be why people are so attached to Zuko. Not only is he an interesting character, but his story has a conclusive ending, where Aang's is left open with the unfortunate circumstances of what should have been his story's climax.